Hey people, it is Sunday, June the 15th. The time is 3:50 in the afternoon. It's currently about 23 degrees Celsius. And I'm just crossing Bloor Street East here at Church Street. And I'm going to be making my way into some nearby residential neighborhoods that sort of run on streets going east to west. Starting from south of Bloor Street here. And it might be surprising to some to see how heavily treed some of these neighborhoods are right in the heart of downtown. There's a bit of a stereotype among many people who don't live in Toronto that it's just a treeless concrete jungle, which stubbornly persists even though it's far from the truth. Even on Bloor Street here, you can see it's lined with some decent sized trees which have been planted along the sidewalk. But there are actually some much bigger mature trees to be found just a stone's throw away on some of these side streets. So I'll do a sort of a zigzag style walk. We're heading south on Church right now. Once you get just a couple of blocks away from the main streets such as Bloor or Yonge with their smaller street trees, you'll find some of the nearby neighborhoods look downright forested with a very heavy tree canopy. So let's bust some myths here about Toronto. And if you look at an aerial photograph of the city, it basically looks like a city built in the middle of a forest. That's how heavily treed a lot of the neighborhoods are once you get away from the skyscraper core of downtown. Not to mention all the valleys running through the city. So you can see this street here is not very treed. We'll start the zigging and zagging here at Hayden Street. Let's have a couple of trees there, but this is how most people picture downtown Toronto, I would say. People from other places across Canada. And it's true, a lot of downtown is heavily built up. It's not much in the way of greenery, with new towers on the rise. Lots of dirt and construction all around as the city constantly expands. You find the further south we go, the side streets will get more and more heavily treed. Take a little shortcut through there. I wonder if I should. Why don't we? This will just take us to Yonge Street. I'll take a shortcut over to Charles Street. Not sure what that honking was all about. And today is Father's Day, I should mention, so happy Father's Day. To any dads who might see this, if you want to show your dad. This is a nice little place to sit down and take a load off. It's all shady if you're trying to get away from the sun. Alright, so here's Charles Street, and you can see already there are a lot more trees here on Charles than there were on Hayden. I'll let this car go. Let's look to the west. I just want to cross the street. Charles is quite busy. A lot of people use it as a bit of a shortcut, I find. It's totally been built up with high-rise condos over the last 15 years. Yeah, everyone's using Charles Street right now. It's because Bloor Street is closed down between Yonge and somewhere around Bay Street for the exotic car show. Those old historic buildings. Some of these have been basically incorporated into new buildings, such as this one. This was the old Manhattan apartments, and then they built a new condo on top of it. All right, we're going to cross a church. So this part of Church Street is pretty sparse with the trees, but it is a main thoroughfare. You tend to find a bit of a lack of greenery, as I mentioned. Yeah, if you're in downtown, it's all about the side streets. And the side streets can be very densely built up with multi-story apartments, condos, or old historic townhouses. But they do tend to maintain a lot more of the greenery on the side streets. Streets don't have to be as wide. The sidewalks don't have to be as wide either. So a lot of these old trees never had to be removed. So some of them are quite big and mature. Some of the streets, the trees are so big they extend right over the street like a canopy. Almost verging on lush, I think. If you go into the more slightly less built up residential neighborhoods just on the periphery of downtown, it's even more so. It is downright lush in neighborhoods like Cabbagetown or the Annex. If you look at an aerial photograph of those neighborhoods, you can barely see the houses because of all the trees. Some people even mistakenly think Toronto is just a bunch of tall towers built with a forest surrounding it. It's like, no, those are neighborhoods. People live there underneath those trees. All right, here is Jarvis Street. This is another main street. It'll take us down to the next cross street. Very concrete looking around here. That's a massive old tree across the street, though. That one has been left to grow over probably well over 100 years. That old former mansion, the Casey House, has been there since the 19th century, I think. All right, Isabella Street. So as you can see now, we're getting more into that nice urban tree canopy. But you can see it's still lined with high-rise apartment buildings. Our old historic walk-up apartments. I really like these side streets. I think they're part of the character of the city. Some of the buildings might not be the prettiest, admittedly. These sort of blocky looking 1950s to 70s era apartments. You have stuff like this also. The Foy House. And the nice old walk-ups, which I think are the most attractive type of housing in this part of the city. Well, it looks like they're getting ready to demolish this building. They've put up the fencing around it. One of these older blocky apartments. It's going to be demolished to make way for a much taller new residential building. We'll have to keep an eye on this to see when they begin demolition. Back to Church Street as we zig and zag. Gramercy House, kind of a fancy name for a pretty typical looking old mid-century apartment. That's a pretty big tree there. I'm not sure how old that one is. It's definitely been around for a while. Contrast between old and new. The Brownlee Apartments. Some Art Deco. That one's probably upwards of 100 years old. I'll take us to Yonge so we can see what people think all of downtown is like, because Yonge Street is pretty much treeless as it runs through the heart of downtown. There might be some very small street trees here and there on certain blocks. I think the stretch we're about to walk along here doesn't even have any small sidewalk trees. It's just completely stereotypically concrete jungle-ish. Here's a linear park. I've walked through here before. It's looking beautiful now. Last time I walked through there, all the leaves weren't out yet. Artful Dodger. This is a nice little stretch leading up to Yonge Street. Alright, now here is the concrete jungle that most people think of. It's unexpected for it to turn right there. I wonder where it's headed. I like how a little stuffed Dalmatian on the front of the fire engine. It's going right there. I didn't detect any sign of a fire as I walked past. Well, let's continue on. But yeah, not a single tree in sight here as far as the eye can see. I think too many people just see scenes like this on the news or even in some of my videos and think that's what downtown is all about. Here comes Gloucester Street. And Irwin Avenue that way. Looking quite inviting. And boom, as soon as you turn off of the treeless Yonge Street, this is what you see. That park again. It runs for quite a length here. It runs over top of the subway line. That's why it's basically built in this linear fashion. Norman Jewison Park through this stretch. I don't think Bumpkins is in business anymore. Look at this beautiful tree canopy here. Of course, we still have the high density apartments. And the old historic homes. Another nice classic here. I think these are some of the best urban neighborhoods in all of Canada right here. And if you look at the density statistics, these are also some of the densest neighborhoods in all of Canada. Even with these low-rise buildings. The Gloucester mansions. And back to church. We meet again. Looking down into the village. And now we're just sort of completely sheltered by trees here. Get a look at another nice old apartment.
Don't work, you don't need. Sounds fair to me.
You have the ever-present chirping of the birds. Back at Jarvis. Quite the growing cluster over there of tall buildings, with more on the way. All right, we're going to cross Jarvis. Let's look south. Now this is Earl Street. Or I guess Earl Place, actually. Some townhouses. I think those ones are slated to be redeveloped, even though they're not all that old. Probably no more than 30-ish years old or so, but there's a redevelopment notice. These are older apartment buildings here. Glendale Mansions. I like how a lot of these older apartments refer to themselves as mansions. And if you're in a car, this is as far as you can go. Here's where Kenny and Spenny lived during the first season of their TV show. Then they moved to another place on Sherborne Street for the remainder of the show. Got lots of redevelopment notices all along this stretch here for very tall buildings, 63 stories. The one just behind me, I think, is also in the 60 to 70 story range, and the one that was slated to replace that older apartment building that's about to be demolished is also around 69-ish stories, I think, so some very tall residential buildings. Will be popping up all through this area. Hopefully not too many of the old trees will have to come down. These are lovely townhouses here. Check out all the greenery. Pretty big front yards, actually. Most of the townhouses in this part of the city are built right up to the sidewalk, but I think these were meant to be a bit more upscale when they were constructed, giving people big front yards. Yeah, there are no trees in Toronto. It's just a concrete jungle. Well, step off of Yonge. let me try that again. Step off of Yonge Street. If you are visiting, you might be surprised at what you see. These trees can give you some shelter from the storm. And another nice older apartment here. And coming up onto Sherborne. And right across the street is St. Jamestown, which is the most densely populated neighborhood in all of Canada. Got some pigeons just chilling here. Just taking a break. Things are a little less treed inside St. Jamestown, but you do see some trees in there to break up the concrete jungle a little bit. But yeah, I think we've shown, how downtown can be surprisingly green. You just venture onto some of the side streets. Hope you enjoyed the walk. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Also hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are links in the description where you can do so via PayPal as well as via my merch store. You can also support the channel by becoming a channel member or by sending a super thanks if you prefer. And you can find me on Instagram also under KContinuum. So thanks for watching, and thanks to all the channel members. And be sure to keep checking back because, as always, I will continue.